Okay. Uh, Welcome back, BFOD squad. Constant listeners of the podcast Barrel Full of Daryl. You're not going to believe where I am today. I am on a lakeside, at the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, because my wife Lisa and my grandson Logan wanted to go fishing. So I'm out here in the wild recording. I hope it goes okay. If you hear something in the background, some wildlife or some people running around, it's to be expected. So we are on episode 50. 50.
That blows my mind.
Me too, Kenzie. Me too. Mind blown. Okay, so you know me by now. I discuss some music, I discuss a movie, I provide a little bit of mirth, hopefully, and I channel it through some other funky ass shit. Okay, here we go. Do you guys remember when I asked you about the lyric, Desmond has a barrow in the marketplace? I'm looking back and I realized I didn't give you the title of that song. It is by the Beatles, written and created by Paul McCartney, and the title is Obla Di Obla Da. Okay. I think I asked you about the movie quote, "We ain't got no radio." Do you know what that's from? That's actually from "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" After the three ex-cons have been pardoned by the governor, goes out on the radio, and then later on they're scrounging around outside looking for the log cabin they need to find, and this bounty hunter who's been tracking them all movie finds them, and they're like, we're free men now. The governor announced it on the radio. This guy says, we ain't got no radio. And they proceed to lynch him. So here's a new mystery lyric for you. I'm so tired of being lonely. I still have some love to give. Okay, we'll talk about that one next time. Music, 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 go. Okay. Y'all may remember that I discussed Tom Petty way back in episode 19. Founded his band, the Heartbreakers, in 1976, and he sadly passed away in 2017 after 4 decades in the music industry. Have you heard of Bob Dylan? Certainly you have. He started making music in 1961, and he is still active and alive today. Now, although his career has had its highs and lows, he's released 40 studio albums, won Grammy Awards, won an Oscar, and even won a Nobel Prize. So he's very prominent and influential with 7 decades in the music industry. Are you familiar with the name George Harrison? We all know George Harrison, right? The lead guitarist for the Beatles. Had a very good solo career after the Beatles. He's also an activist, and he organized benefit concerts, such as the concert for Bangladesh. Now, sadly, he passed away in 2001 after a career spanning 4 decades. Have you heard the name Roy Orbison? I hope that you know Roy Orbison, but I can't fault you if you don't. His solo career began in the 1960s with much success and many hit songs. But his prominence faltered until the 1980s when he had a resurgence. And he has had a 3-decade career. How about Jeff Lynne? Have you heard of Jeff Lynne? Does that name ring a bell? Well, he's the founder and frontman of the awesome band Electric Light Orchestra, formed in 1970. His songs incorporated orchestration, therefore the band name, but they are definitely rock songs. He's also a producer and has been active for over 5 decades. Okay, so where the fuck are you going with this, Daryl? Just gave us 5 names. Well, please humor me a bit more. In 1988, George Harrison had a hit song called This Is Love, for which he needed a B-side. Now, if you don't know what a B-side is, decades ago, songs were released on 45 RPM records, and they had an A-side, which was usually the hit song, and a B-side. Not necessarily a hit song, but it could be. So George Harrison knew Jeff Lynne because Jeff had produced the album Cloud 9. And one night during dinner, George walked into this restaurant in LA, and there is Jeff Lynne and Roy Orbison seated together at a dinner table. So George asked Jeff Lynne to produce the new single. And because Roy was there and they all were amazed by him, they asked him to join in as well. Well, they ended up going to Bob Dylan's garage studio in Malibu to start the writing and recording. Now, George had to go to Tom Petty's house to pick up his guitar, and he asked Tom to come along. So these 5 men, these 5 superstars, with a combined career of 23 decades, formed the supergroup, the Traveling Wilburys. Super group. In fact, an uber super group. That's fun to say. Wow. Yeah, a lot of talent, a lot of remarkable people. So they ended up getting together, and over a 10-day period, they recorded 10 songs, enough for a full album. So in October 1988, they released the triple platinum album, The Traveling Wilburys Volume 1, on the Wilbury record label. Each member contributed to the writing and producing of each song, and the album produced 3 big hits: Handle with Care, The End of the Line, and Last Night. This album was nominated for a Grammy, but it lost out to Bonnie Raitt. Well, sadly, Roy Orbison passed away only 2 months after the album's released. But the band carried on as a quartet, and they created music videos for the hit songs. Now, in the video for The End of the Line, they show a photo of Roy when his vocal plays, and it shows his guitar rocking in a rocking chair. Yeah, they missed him, and they kept his spirit though. So in October 1990, the band released The Traveling Wilburys Volume 3. Yes, they skipped over Volume 2. Now, the album was dedicated to Roy, but it did not achieve the success of their debut album. But I'll tell you, one of the songs on this album is called The Wilbury Twist. and there's a video on YouTube that is hilarious. So it stars the band members along with John Candy, Eric Idle, Cheech Marin, and Woody Harrelson. Do yourself a favor and dial that up on YouTube. Wilbury Twist. Now these guys, they had a blast making their music, you can tell. Oh, and by the way, each of them adopted a half-brother, Wilbury, pseudonym. George Harrison was Nelson Wilbury. Jeff Lynne was Otis Wilbury. Bob Dylan was Lucky Wilbury. Tom Petty was Charlie T. Jr. Wilbury. And Roy was Lefty Wilbury. And regarding the name Wilbury, where the hell did they get that from? Well, when Jeff was producing George's album Cloud 9, there were some recording errors caused by faulty equipment. So George told Jeff, "We'll bury them in the mix. We'll bury them in the mix." Pretty creative. If you are interested, there is a short documentary on YouTube titled The True History of the Traveling Wilburys, which shows them creating the songs for their debut album. So these guys, they're all guitarists. And in some scenes of this documentary, they're all crowded around a small dining room table with their 5 guitars. And it's also very cool to see how these superstars interact with each other. And you can tell that they were all indeed good friends. So do yourself a favor, dial up my playlist, and enjoy their songs. And now for a word from our sponsor. I'll be right back. Hi, y'all. This is Sal Salmonella, talking at you again from my seafood restaurant in Scratch Ankle, Alabama. Well, sorta. You see, my wife, Nilla Manila, took sick a few days ago, and her sister, Millie Manila, volunteered to do the cooking while she recovered. Now, she's crazy about those crawdads, and she snuck some in and tossed them into the fryer. Oh, my. Well, they started exploding and shooting hot lard and oil everywhere. So Millie has got second-degree burns on most of her body due to the flying hot oil. Plus, we had a small kitchen fire. Now, Millie is recovering at the Monroe County Burn Center, and I am now the cook, the waiter, the dishwasher, and the janitor. Now, I had to rent a fryer from Ricky Ray Bubba and a portable stove top from Ellie Mae Bubba because I got it all set up on the tailgate of my truck. And we only doing carry out for the foreseeable future due to the kitchen damage. But come on by and pick up a bucket of good fried seafood and a bowl of cheese grits. By the way, Ricky Ray, he ain't been hunting for a while, so we plumb out of squirrel and rabbit legs. My apologies to the anti-pescatarians, but I do hope to see you real soon. And we're back. Movie. Donnie Darko. Yeah, this movie is in my top 11. Now, released in 2001, it's a science fiction psychological thriller written and directed by Richard Kelly, his directorial debut. And it stars Jake Gyllenhaal as Donnie Darko, his sister Maggie Gyllenhaal as his sister, Drew Barrymore and Noah Wiley as high school teachers, and Jenna Malone as Donnie's girlfriend. Now, it also stars Patrick Swayze as a weirdo motivational speaker, and Seth Rogen as a thug, a bully in his film debut. I'll just go ahead and say right now, this is kind of a fucked up movie. It's weird and it's a bit hard to get your head around, but it's worth the effort. Its release was soon after the terrorist attacks on 9/11, and since part of the plot features an aircraft engine falling from the sky, it had scarce advertising. But it has since gained a cult following, and it has been listed at number 2 for the 50 greatest independent films of all time. Yeah, it's good. So, what's it about? Donnie Darko is a troubled teenager prone to sleepwalking. In fact, the opening scene shows him sleeping on a roadway out in the woods with his bike laying next to him. So he gets up and rides his bike home. Now, later on, a couple nights later, he is asleep in his bed when a voice wakes him up and beckons him to come outside. This is where he first encounters a figure named Frank, who wears a monstrous rabbit costume with an evil looking face. Frank tells Donnie that the world will end in 28 days. So the next morning, Donnie's awakened in the middle of a golf course by 2 golfers who recognize him and tell him to go home. When Donnie gets home, his house is surrounded by cop cars, fire trucks, and members of the FAA. Yeah. So a jet engine had fallen from the sky and crashed into their house right through Donnie's bedroom. If he had been at home in bed, he would have been killed. Now, the FAA has investigated and they have no idea where the jet engine came from. Weird. Now, Donnie continues to have visions of Frank, and his behavior has become morose and erratic. His parents send him to a psychotherapist who believes that he is detached from reality, and his visions of Frank are daylight hallucinations, kind of like paranoid schizophrenia. Now, during one encounter with Frank, he asks Donnie if he believes in time travel, which piques Donnie's curiosity so much that he asks his science teacher at school about it. The teacher gives Donnie a book titled The Philosophy of Time Travel, written by a former science teacher at the school who is now a senile old woman living outside of town who they call Grandma Death. Donnie is very surprised by this, and he takes the book out of curiosity. So Frank begins to influence Donnie's actions during his sleepwalking episodes. He prods him to flood the high school by breaking open a water main with an axe. And this axe ends up in the head of a bronze statue of the school's mascot. Frank also tells him to burn down the house of the motivational speaker, which he does. Subsequently, the firefighters find a hoard of child pornography in the home. And this guy, Patrick Swayze, gets arrested. So I'll fast forward here to Halloween night, and Donnie and his sister are hosting a party to celebrate her acceptance to Harvard. Donnie's girlfriend shows up and she is distressed that her mother has gone missing. But she and Donnie end up in a bedroom and they have sex for the first time. Afterward, Donnie realizes that the end of the world is only hours away. So he and his girlfriend get in the car and drive to Grandma Death's house because Donnie's looking for answers. Now it's spoiler time. If you have not seen this movie, you may want to stop listening now. It gets really weird and the ending is a big twist. So, up to you. Donnie and his girlfriend arrive at Grandma Death's house and encounter the 2 school bullies. Donnie's nemesis, and a fight ensues. As they're fighting, a red Camaro is approaching and swerves to miss them, but the girlfriend gets run over and dies. Now, the passengers get out of the car, and the driver is dressed in a large, grotesque rabbit costume, and his name is Frank. By the way, in a previous meeting with the imaginary Frank leads Donnie to his father's bedroom closet where he finds his dad's pistol. So Frank gets out of the Camaro and he's all shook up about running over the girl. And Donnie shoots him through the right eye, killing him. Donnie picks up the girlfriend's body and walks home, puts her in a car, and they drive off to a nearby ridge. And this is where he watches as a jet plane encounters a vortex which rips off one of the engines. Donnie hurries home and he ends up in bed when the engine crashes through the roof and kills him. Afterward, everything turns back to normal, as if most of the movie didn't happen. In fact, his girlfriend rides her bike past his house and stops to look at the commotion. And she asks a boy standing next to her what happened. And he says the boy was killed by a jet engine. And she asks his name, and the boy says, Donnie Darko. So I did a little digging on this and found out that there is a director's cut which provides further explanations. And it basically boils down to a tangent universe that Donnie had gotten pulled into. In other words, an alternate reality. So if I have tickled your brain or piqued your curiosity, have a watch. It's really good. It's currently streaming on Hulu, Prime Video, Peacock, and a few other services. Just tell them Daryl sent you. Word of the week. Gallstone. 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 So your gallbladder is an organ that stores bile, which it delivers to the intestines when fats are detected, because bile breaks down fats. But excessive cholesterol in the bile can form gallstones, which block the bile from exiting. The gallstones are made of hardened cholesterol. Apparently, this is very painful, and the gallstones or the gallbladder can be and should be removed. Now, in 2015, a woman in India had 12,000 gallstones removed. 12,000. The gall of some people, right? Joke of the week. What do you call a detective that accidentally solves the case? Sherlock Holmes. Also, did you know that your pupils are the last part of your body to stop working when you die? They dilate. Question of the week. Last week I asked, why isn't the Arctic a continent? Because the Arctic is an ocean partially covered by sea ice. Now, it's defined by the Arctic Circle and includes territory from Greenland, Russia, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Iceland, and Alaska. But basically, unlike Antarctica, it has no landmass, which is a requirement for a continent. So where the fuck do you think Santa Claus lives? Maybe he's got a submarine or underwater habitat. New question of the week. Which organs in the human body are not vital? In other words, which ones can you live without if needed? I'll tell you, there are 7 of them. Gallbladder's one. See if you can name the others. Thought of the week. You can't have it all. Where would you put it? Okay, don't forget about the awesome playlist that I've got out there for you. Some great songs on there. I hope you're enjoying it. As a reminder, you may contact me by clicking on the send me a text button in the episodes or directly at bfodpodcast@gmail.com. Also, don't forget, podcast episodes have an option for you to support my show. Send me maybe $3 a month, $10 a month. Yeah, that come in handy. Gas station hot dogs. So I guess that's it for this episode. Go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you for listening. I hope you were entertained, and I will talk at you again soon. Bye for now.